Rita Wimbush, and this is Stage Left Planet, a short for Stage Left Planet, in which I would like to discuss with you the discrimination of the definition of personhood. Yes, as we've seen this week, that the definition of the term recession has changed, right? And I like to discuss how that compares with the definition of personhood. Now, let's go back to over 400 years during the transatlantic slave trade when it was active, right? And to justify the subjugation and exploitation of the African slaves, as well as other groups such as the Native Americans. The definition of personhood regarding them changed, particularly the slaves, the Africans that were brought here as slaves to be defined as only being three-fifths of a human being. Now, this was done so that their enslavement and the limiting of their rights would be justified, right, and seen as legitimate. People would look at them like as they were referred to chattel or chattel. And whether it be with a heavy hand, such as the creation of such laws, even when we look over at the Jim Crow laws that Woodrow Wilson made national law, and even when it comes to the neo neo colonialism, the extension of neo-colonialism through the basically other avenues to maintain the same structures of that were in place during slavery, as well as post reconstruction and post reconstruction. Okay, to normalize those, right, to keep those structures in place through systemic racism, because I'm a person who firmly believes that systemic racism exists because those structures, such as midlining, redlining, and medical apartheid, are still in place today. And referring to medical apartheid, one must look at abortion. It's particularly how it targets populations that are seen to be as unwanted, or as Ruth Bader Ginsburg stated, populations that we don't want too many of. In her place on the court interview that she did with New York Times Magazine. So we have to look at why does the definition of personhood conveniently gets changed. I mean, think about it. Referring to slavery, let's refer back to slavery. If the slaves were only three-fifths of a human being, that means that most of these slave owners and overseers and taskmasters that were not black, that were not slaves, that were not white, what were they doing when they had sex with the female slaves? That meant that they would have been committing bestiality. Many of those in that particular class of people, right? The white dominant male class at that time, right? And when I say dominant, I mean economically dominant as well. They profess to be Christians, though we know that nobody is perfect, okay? Nobody is perfect. Christians are not perfect, right? And a Christian that professes to you to be perfect, unless they are Jesus Christ himself, is a liar. And God has said that they are a liar. If they say they have no sin, They are a liar, and being perfect would mean that you have no sin. So so by their own law, by them, and look at me, I'm a black person. My mother is black. Both of my parents have gone on to be with the Lord, but my mother's black. My dad is black. I'm a black person, but I'm a fairly light skinned black person. I'm actually lighter skinned than what both of my parents were. Not that much lighter than my mother, but I'm light skinned due to slavery. I have white ancestors somewhere. But that is why I am light skinned, right? But not that I'm saying that makes me any better. I'm just saying that is why my skin is light. But the point that I'm making is that the white ancestors that I had, they would have been by the laws of the land during slavery, during Reconstruction and post Reconstruction, and whoever else during the early 20th century, right? Oh, and I have Native American ancestry as well. But that's neither here nor there. Here's the thing. Those white ancestors that I have, they were committing bestiality. They would have been committing bestiality by having sex and producing offspring with my black ancestors, with my black ancestors. And this is an activity that Willie Lynch, who wrote The Making of a Slave, encouraged. He encouraged the slave owners to have sex with the female slaves to diversify the genetic code or genome or whatever of the slaves so that it wouldn't be too much inbreeding occurring among the slaves because of because inbreeding can impact the genetic line of a people. It can cause these the since let's see since post flood. We aren't supposed to being that man is fallen in nature and God has set things. God has set the rules that we are not to have sex with our close relatives, our parents, our brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. We are not to have sex with them. And sometimes when that happens, not for everybody, but sometimes when that happens, the children are born with certain maladies. But the point that I'm making is this: Willie Lynch encouraged what some will refer to as miscegenation, to vary up the genes so that it wouldn't be to vary up, I guess, the genetic code so that it wouldn't be the where it was too much inbreeding occurring. Now, the thing about this is that was a change. That was a change of the definition of personhood, right? And as you see with the illegitimate change of the definition of personhood, we saw the results of that, which is that by their own laws and stand rules, they ended up committing a bestiality. And the reason why they even created the rule was so that they could say, okay, well, these aren't humans anyway. We have a right to enslave them. We have a right to treat them as we would treat our cows and our horses, and our mules and donkeys. you know. And so that is what occurred. And in these times, we see the definition of personhood being changed to accommodate the illegitimate desire to eliminate, again, subjugate and eliminate vulnerable persons. Slaves were vulnerable persons. To subjugate and eliminate, well, yes, eliminate vulnerable persons for the purpose of the convenience and potential benefit of those who have more power. Regarding abortion, Pete, there are two main entities that promote abortion. One is that of a dominant ruling class that basically sees the offspring of the aborted as competition. When I'm saying this regarding progressives. Progressives are pro-abortion because they are anti-population. They're anti-humanity. They call good evil and evil good. They will say, hey, we are about the betterment and improvement of humanity. You can see this displayed in Margaret Sanger's um treatise proposal, My Way to Peace, in which she defined what dysgenic people were, right? She defined what dysgenic people were, and she was speaking from the perspective of, from her perspective of eugenics. She was a Malthusian eugenicist, and she was speaking from the perspective of a eugenicist, right? And populations that she saw to be unfit to continuously procreate and be a part of the human race and produce progeny in the human race, she felt that they should have been separated from the mass population of humanity, and even sterilized, right? Such persons are persons who are currently today being exploited by progressivists such as Margaret Sanger. They are basically lambs, sheep being led to their own slaughter by Judas goats like Margaret Sanger that pretend to be on their side by showing them one aspect, like by exploiting their problems or circumstances and presenting a solution to them that's detrimental to them. Okay. If you see my arms jiggling, I lost a lot of weight in the past. So if I lift my arms and you see them jiggling, that's loose skin, I'm happy to see it. Anyway, um, people such as Margaret Sanger and anybody that tells you, okay, if I'm gonna put it plain and simple. If a person tells you that it's easier to kill your unborn child, and this, by the way, is not for people who are just dead set on abortion and that's what they want to do, and that's it, and they are fully aware of all that an abortion entails, the consequences of an abortion, and all the dynamics of an abortion. Not regarding you. I'm speaking to people who don't know much about abortion or don't fully understand or realize the implications of having an abortion and the impact on your child. Now, according to medical science, Life begins at conception. It begins when the sperm fertilizes the egg, and that union creates a zygote, and develops thus forth. Life begins then. There has even been, now God is light. God is light. And there has even been observations of the moment that a sperm cell fertilizes an egg, and a flash of light occurs when it happens. God told Jeremiah that I knew thee before I formed thee in the womb, in the belly, in our mother's belly. God told Jeremiah that. Therefore, and as we have the technology to see the beginning of life develop, and all throughout gestation, there's no way that one can deny, no way whatsoever that one can deny the personhood of an unborn human being. We are continuously growing throughout life, okay? We're continuously growing throughout life, all right? And growth must start at some point. No one starts their lives in their mother's womb a full grown adult. You don't see 6'4" men walking out of the womb. And that's just what it is. You don't see that. You don't see girls. You don't see women, full grown women, walking straight out of the womb. Like, and then turn around and say, "Oh, what's up, mama? I'm so glad, girl. I'm so glad to meet you." They not full walking out the womb, full grown people. Even, I mean, let's just get it straight. And to change the definition of personhood from baby, human being, to clump of cells, just to accommodate an action that is very detrimental to the vulnerable party, who at that particular point cannot speak up for themselves. And one would say, well, they're totally dependent on the mother, so we have to do follow what's in the what the mother says is best for the child, even if it means uh, it, aborting the child. No, that is not true. That is not true because, number one, that child may not be able to speak. But even in adulthood, there are times when a person may be where they can't speak. If they're ill, or if something happens to them to cause stress or trauma, they may become where they don't talk. Some people will refer to it as mutism, but yeah, it's mutism. Or they may have a speech defect. That still does not mean that they don't have individual human rights. And with euthanasia, often illnesses are exploited exploited to challenge the personhood of the civil rights, the to challenge one's personhood, to attack their civil rights, their civil right to life, even their civil right to change their mind if they've stated that they would prefer to end their lives, or use assisted suicide or medical, medical doctor assisted suicide or euthanasia to end their lives. Some people change their mind, as we see in Canada, and even it's coming to Massachusetts too. I don't know why the laws are anti-life laws, pro-death laws are growing, are becoming uh, normalized in Massachusetts. That's weird. But honestly, the thing is this. You people who are vulnerable and in positions of being vulnerable in circumstances that make them vulnerable, dire situations, dire straits, they are being exploited to advance agendas that are detrimental to themselves and mankind as a whole, because they will be used as a precedent to justify the attack on the rights of those who may or may not even be in agreement with what they were, let's see, with what they espoused to do or may have been coerced or gaslighted, influenced to do. So this is why we have to be careful when we change the definitions of things to accommodate ourselves. This is why Chris, okay, I'll get to that in a minute. But yes, the manipulation of people to to remove or to suppress their rights, whether is whether it be someone who can speak up for themselves or whether they can't, it is wrong. It is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. By the definition of, when you look at the definition of dysgenic, Margaret Sanger said that it would include people who have disabilities, like mental and physical disabilities, people who are criminals, prostitutes, let's see, criminals, prostitutes, and even she focused on black people, right? And it hurts. It's very disappointing to me to see black people rally on or be indifferent or apathetic about the issue of abortion, particularly if they fully aware of the facts regarding abortion. Because one could say, okay, if you're speaking out in support of abortion because you don't know about the history of the introduction of birth control in the black community, which was, and not just the black community, but in undesirable, unfit populations, according to people such as Margaret Sanger and W.E.B. Du Bois as well. Read his writings, The Negro and Birth Control. He wrote it in 1939, if I'm not mistaken. And he had the same views as Margaret Sanger because he was an elitist like Margaret Sanger. And one must be very careful when embracing progressivism and the notions of elitism, being the best, and all this kind of stuff, because, you know, whatever gifts that you have, God gave them to you, and God enables you to be able to, He allows and even enables you to excel. Now, here's the thing, what you choose to do with those gifts, you could choose to do right or you could choose to do wrong with those gifts. But be certain that you are not all that, and you are nothing without God. None of us are anything without God. So we have to look at this and think, just like we are nothing without God. We have no right to look at somebody else like they're dysgenic, they're unfit, and like they are nothing as well. You know, we have no right to do that. To stop the life of to stop the life of an unborn person is atrocious. To end the life of a person who hasn't really specifically expressed up until the end, who hasn't expressed that they want their lives to end, or who changes their mind, right, is atrocious. God can bring us back from the most gravest of illnesses. He really can. God is a healer. And some people say, well, separate religion. You cannot separate religion. You can't, you play this. You may be able to separate religion, but you can't separate God from anything, because God created everything. Okay? Nothing was born out of nothing. See, the only being that is and always is and was never created is God. It's God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, God who is God the Holy Spirit. And that is the truth. And I'm telling you all this truth in love. And progressivists, they are not progressivists. Satan is backwards. He will get you to call good evil and evil good. Progressivism is really digression. It's digressivism. See? Even when it comes to their concept of evolution, there's nothing that has gained anything through what they call the process of evolution. We don't see humans, as much as humans focus on the ability, the capability of flight, the ability to fly, right? No one has evolved into a being that is able to fly on their own, just with their body, without any other extension to make it happen, such as a hang gliding thing, or a jetpack, or an airplane, or a helicopter. No one, nobody has grown wings or had so much gas that they were able to lift themselves and propel themselves forward. No one has done it. And if they do that, I mean, seriously, somebody needs videotape put on YouTube and TikTok and make a bunch of money from that one. But you get what I'm saying. No one has done that, but through the process of evolution of what progressives maintain to be evolution, right? The abilities and appendages and things have been lost. Look at the vestigial tail. You see what I'm saying? Look at the vestigial tail. And in addition to the vestigial tail, look at the megafauna, right? The megafauna went from being mega to regular. You see, look at the giant sloth, the woolly mammoth. Even dinosaurs, if one were to look at it, I mean, you can look at what the monitor lizard, the water dragons, as even deep ocean, deep sea creatures, right? And you can see how they are closely related to even the crocodiles. Like, let's look at the crocodiles. You look at crocodiles, the fossils of prehistoric crocodiles, they were humongous. And now, look at them. Though I wouldn't want to tangle with neither one. Look at Andrew Zarkis. That's my favorite dog, right? Though they say he more closely related to a whale than a dog, though foolishness. Foolishness. It's a dog. Look at Andrew Zarkis. Andrew Zarkis is this humongous, big, prehistoric looking wolf. They say it said that he was the size of a mid-sized sedan. If I could get a hold to Andrew Zarkis right now, a real live Andrew Zarkis, not one that's been brought back like Jurassic Park, right? But a real Andrew Zarkis that's still around, right? And I didn't think he'd eat me, I would get one. Wouldn't want to tangle with Gaston and stuff. I mean, I don't want to know how to get to that Sesame Street. That big old prehistoric bird, like a big chicken, like he cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or something. Look at the megafauna, such as the diatrema, or what some would even refer to as a thunderbird, right? Look how now they're saying the little rail birds that you see flying around now, right? That's them, you know. And you look at modern day wolves, one would probably say, okay, well, the wolves are like the Andrews Ark, you know. Each one has lost parts, size, strength, you know. What is evolutionary about that? What is evolutionary about that? Will man evolve to the point that he will become a single cell organism? You see, will he if that's evolution, will man evolve? Will mankind evolve to that point? Is that the goal? When we look at the line that is being espoused over in the Middle East, right? And it's this complex, this community that can hold 9 million people, right? And it's in like a single line, right? Justice Knight discusses it on his YouTube channel, right? And honestly, and I'll include the link to his video in the description for this video once posted onto YouTube. Right. That is what I'm discussing right there. That's what I'm talking about. That's not improvement. When you look at the line, you can see the potential that it will have to become a giant 9 million person capacity housing project slash prison. That is what it has the capacity to become. And no, it will be where the one's not allowed to drink alcohol in it either. And there is various. We have to be aware of how we accept of we must be aware of presentations, because just because something is presented lovely does not mean that it is lovely, right? Okay, look at the Brazilian butt lifts, and this is not to disrespect anyone who has gotten a Brazilian butt lift, but many people complain about the pain of the effects of having had the procedure done, right? As with saline breast implants, at one point, women were talking about there were women who had gotten saline breast implants whose breast implants had started to leak. You know, the breast implants started to leak. So therefore, we have to be careful. Just because it seems like a good idea does not mean that it is. And please do not pay attention to people who are like celebrities and influencers that come to you promoting a particular thing, because you got to think, okay, what do they gain from promoting this particular thing? Have they really, do you know for a fact that it is something that they actually done? And this is the thing, even if they've done it, if they're wealthy, they can afford to get it reversed or to get it fixed. If it's something that caused damage, can you do so? You see, so we have to be aware and not let ourselves be flattered into our own destruction nor the destruction of others. You know, and honestly, whether it be with a heavy hand or a friendly, fiendish smile, to influence or gaslight one into believing that they are inadequate, either at the time or just in general, and their dire circumstances reflect the reality of that inadequacy, and thus they should do something detrimental to themselves or others to resolve the issue, is wrong. In either situation, coercion is being used to legitimize the abuse and disenfranchisement of one party to the benefit of another. And this is what we see with abortion, with euthanasia, and the removal of most human rights. One will look at gun control, right? And I'm going to talk about this and we're going to wrap it up. Look at gun control. Now they'll say, okay, we're going to get rid of guns. We're going to ban guns or ban assault rifles to protect the public. But this is the thing. Most people who intend to commit a crime using guns and assault rifles, right? If they intend to commit the crime, then they will commit the crime to have access to obtain the gun, the assault rifle, while law-abiding citizens are being banned from having access to the guns to defend themselves and others. You see? And so take this into account. If a person is really trying to help you, they are not going to insist you do something to harm yourself or somebody else first. If they are actually trying to help you, they're not going to, if they know you are hungry, well, no, let's get it like this. What is a good example? Suppose your feet were hurting and you expressed that your feet were hurting. A person that cares about you is not going to tell you, oh, well, if your feet hurting, cut your feet off. Rather than massage your the feet. Look, rather than either tell you what to do to actually heal your feet or make your feet feel better, such as massage your feet or they massage them or soak them in Epsom salt or something, right? Or give you, if you need better shoes, help you get better shoes. Even if you give them the money to go to the store to get you some better shoes, and they bring you better shoes, they're not gonna say, "Oh, well, cut your feet off." And that is what is occurring with abortion and euthanasia and the removal of human rights these days. When you look at abortion, a person says, "Oh, I love," in these particular circumstances, I want my baby. I want to have my baby. I love my baby. I love becoming a mother, but I can't afford it. And somebody says, "Well, kill it. Kill your baby." And they're not telling you about the dangers of abortion. They're not telling you about the risks of the risk of your reproductive health due to having had an abortion. They're not telling you that. When it comes to euthanasia, we look at places like Canada. There are people who have disabilities, people who are ill, or who are sick. They can't afford the health care, and they are being coerced. They are being pressured into choosing not maid, but into choosing euthanasia as an option. There's a woman, her name's Gwen, the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition discusses this on their website. They discuss when Gwen on their website. She has a 3-year-old daughter, but she's very ill. Gwen is very ill, and she's having a hard time maintaining her health care, being able to afford her health care. And she said she, along with others, have stated that in Canada it is easy. They have it is easier for them to access death, death treatments. They're for them to gain access to affordable health care for themselves. So that for them to get aid and assistance to pay their medical expenses. They get told, well, it's easier for you to choose euthanasia, you know. Though many of them have stated that they don't want to kill themselves, but the cost of being able to afford their appropriate medical care is beyond what they can afford. This is horrible. We should never live, and as civilized human beings, we shouldn't be in a world where we have to choose between, what we have to choose. It's like, if you don't have money, you may as well be dead. And that is the sentiment that is being echoed throughout global society these days. If you can't afford this, that, and the other, you may as well. If you don't have money, you may as well die. That's the sentiment. That is the sentiment that is being echoed. That's the message that is being spread. And unfortunately, it is being trumpeted by the people who claim to be those that care the most about humanity, and I'm referring to the progressives. And it's like, no, you all are basically like this, like a group of elitists that think that you are near perfect, and if it wasn't for the rest of us, if it wasn't for the rest of us getting in the way or taking resources, intermingling with you all, you could be perfect. You could achieve perfection. And no one is perfect. Nobody, and by the fact that nobody is perfect, then man will not be perfect without Jesus in particular. So, we'll continue this discussion later, but I wanted to touch on this, and I'm Warrita Winbush. This is a stage left. I'm Warrita Winbush, and this is the Stage Left Planet Short. Focus on God.